What's up, dude? You know
That's like
that,
from that movie, Good Morning Vietnam.
by the way, I never watched that movie.
Really?
That's
Well, I
one I
feel like
actually,
you were a big Robin Williams fan.
I am a big, yeah, I still am a big
Nice.
Robin Williams fan, rip. But, I don't know. I think 'cause I was more, like, I wasn't allowed to see it when I was younger.
Mm,
When I was watching, like, Aladdin and Mrs. Doubtfire and, like, the other,
right.
like, cutie movies that he did. And then, he did an amazing
Aladdin.
movie.
Oh yeah,
Dude, he's Genie.
he's the genie. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah. And, and then I watched Patch Adams. Did you ever watch that one where
No.
he's the doctor?
Oh, the
He
clown?
well, yeah, the clown doc. He ends up. I
Yes.
mean, it's very loosely based on a true story, I think, but
Mhm.
essentially about a guy that was that was in a psychiatric hospital, checked himself in. I think for he was on suicide watch, and then his roommate was, I think, a schizophrenic or something. He kept on seeing squirrels everywhere,
Mm.
and he made him feel better. And then he realized he wanted to be a doctor, and he found purpose in his life. So he basically checked himself out and went to med school.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean, it's a crazy movie. And then there's obviously Good Will Hunting, Dead Poet Society.
Oh, Dead Poets are one of
Um,
the best movies I've ever seen in my life.
I know I keep on going back and forth on whether to show my high school class the movie or not.
Mm.
The problem is I find that I experience this a lot when I'm teaching. I don't want to. I know that um, there's certain things that take time to appreciate, and certain
Hmm.
things that like you got to like get to like have a certain amount of experience, like life experience.
Yeah.
You like there's a concept and you get the concept, but it doesn't like mean anything to you or speak to you in any kind of meaningful way
Right.
until you kind of get more of that experience, and you look back on it, and you're like, whoa, that's amazing, right? Or you watch
Hmm.
it for the first time even. But a lot of times, if you're watching like a movie in high school English, chances are your association with it is going to be so negative that
Right.
like even in the future, if you will appreciate it, like you'll go back and be like, I'm not gonna watch that. That was like a school movie.
Right. Right.
And there's some movies that my teachers do you ever have Mrs. Feldblum in Fresh?
I don't think so, but it sounds familiar.
She was a short lady, short hair, very sweet, kind of blondish, dirty blonde, but she was a great teacher. She showed us some really great movies,
Hmm.
and and then and like some like quality like film movies, not just boring English movies, but
Right.
and then like I remember like I'm talking to people, my friends about just about good cinema and good movies, and like two or three movies that were watched in high school came up, and everyone was like, and I was like, whoa, like, I didn't realize that like
At the
I'm actually
time.
getting an education. Like,
Right, right,
I'm
right.
actually seeing good quality, film movies.
Yeah, it's really interesting when that happens because, for example, like everyone always says, like, oh yeah, life's about the ups and the downs in life, and it's like sometimes, like when you hear something, it doesn't really hit you as hard. But then, for example, like I used to always hear that, and like obviously, like the downs are worse than the ups, but you wouldn't have the ups without the downs.
Yeah, and then you live
Um,
it, and you're like, whoa.
yeah, and then someone, I don't remember where I heard it or I saw it, but it was like something about a heartbeat monitor and how you look at a heartbeat monitor and like the scariest thing you could see on that
Oh,
is
it's a
a
flat
flat
line.
line.
Hmm.
So it's like that's such a good example of life because that's literally like someone's life. The heart is literally up, down, up, down. So it's just
Yeah.
funny that like I've heard people tell me like, yeah, it's about the ups and downs, about the ups and downs, like my whole life, and it's like it doesn't
And
really
you're like, shut
impact
up,
me.
dude.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then all of a
exactly.
sudden like I saw that and I was like, wow, like that is like that kind of like I don't know, just something about that like it hits you different. So like I feel what you're saying like, and that's like isn't that similar to like Kabbalah in a way? Like they tell you not to learn that until you're at a certain
Yeah,
age.
that's such a good call, dude. That's such
Yeah,
a great
so it's
association.
stuff like that. It's like
Yeah,
you
because like
don't
you could
realize,
learn it, but
yeah,
like you could
you're
learn
not
it, but
really
like
ready.
when it tells you not to, it doesn't mean like you're not
Right.
capable of it. It means
Hmm.
that like it doesn't mean as much to you.
Right,
There's
right.
actually a deal like when you daven, if you're leading the davening or the prayers on the high holidays and Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur, that it's supposed to be someone that presumably is at least married with a kid.
Right, right.
But
That
if
I heard.
not, then someone, then even like someone generally speaking with life experience, because like when you're talking about like the things that you're praying for, talking
Right.
about like health, and you're talking about like the fact that it's the beginning of the year and like everything that's going to happen for this upcoming year is being decided, and
Hmm.
like as a weathered person, as someone that like lived through life's trials and life's challenges, what the implications are. So you want a representative that's going to be that's aware of that and has all that intention and all that that kind of understanding of life, and he's
Right.
the one that you want, no matter how, like, it's not a matter of like talent or whatever, for the most part it's like, who do I want representing me to God?
Right.
And I want someone that knows what to ask for and what kind of perspective to have, you know
Yes, 100%. It's also important because I feel like a lot of people that start to look into that kind of stuff are like very vulnerable. Like, as in,
because
like,
they're
you're kind of
looking.
only gonna
Yeah,
do
keep
that
it going
unless
on that
you're
thought, because I have a feeling I know you're going to get into it. I'm
Sam,
very
you're only
excited.
gonna do that unless you're like looking for, like, you feel like you're missing something and you need to find something,
Yes,
which is a
dude.
very, nowadays, with all
It's
the
a
information online and how nothing is ever real or nothing serious anymore. It's like the way that we
yes,
move
dude.
on from things so quickly and things just become a meme so quickly. It's like for people who are like struggling and like are looking for something, like it's scary to be in that vulnerable place right now. Well, I don't know, not specifically right now. I feel like it's been going on for some time already.
It's not
But
even. It's that, and it's also that when you feel like there's either a system let you down, or there's like a
hmm
vacuum of what authority is, or who you could trust or who you can't, you go start looking for alternative realities and
right.
understandings, and
hmm
include and like, it's so funny because a lot of the and it's actually, people say this about lying, people say this about conspiracy theories, people say this about a lot of things, like, um the best but most dangerous ones have some truth to them, like
mm
enough for it to make sense to you,
mm
um but then, like, once they got you hooked, like, once, because a lot of this stuff is based on who you trust as an authority. So if you reel
Right.
someone in with like a little bit of truth and like,
hmm
oh yeah, I know that that's a fact, right? And
I
then
look
you're
up to
like,
that person.
yeah,
He agrees
exactly.
with
And
it,
then
so
you stop questioning as often,
hmm
right? Because you already
yeah.
established that you trust them, and that's what leaves you open to really getting taken advantage of,
Right.
or wandering down these rabbit holes by yourself without the kind of necessary context or understanding.
hmm
That's also that also happens, dude. I watched the craziest movie last night. Um, that I was totally not prepared for.
mm
It's happened to me twice in 2 weeks, actually. I watched. So my friend, do you ever watch the movie Argo?
No, I don't think so.
So add that to your watch list, dude.
I have a very
Crazy
love-hate
movie,
relationship with movies, I think.
dude. You'll love this movie. It's it's Ben Affleck, and it's based on a true story. This is one of the craziest stories you'll ever hear, dude, and you'll love this story. It's the premise of the movie, and I'm not going to ruin it. I'll just tell you what the premise is, because how everything plays out is obviously what the point of the movie is.
hmm
Is It's based on a true story. In 1979, in Iran, there was a terrible Shah or dictator for the people, and the people overthrew him, and he ran to America, and America gave him refuge, right?
Wow.
And so the Iranians were pissed off about that. And then at a certain point, a group of protesters in the street stormed the American embassy and held 66 American people in the embassy hostage.
Wait, is that the
Right?
hotel movie? I mean, not some
Not a hotel.
where they hold everyone hostage. It's not called Hotel something.
No, but then six people sneak out the back.
Yes, I feel like I know exactly what you're talking about. I feel like I saw that
And
movie.
then Ben Affleck works for the CIA. He does extractions, right? He extracts people. His job is to extract these people, but they need a plausible way to get in and out of the country, right?
hmm
So the CIA opens up a shop for a, that or a front that they get a director, and they say that they're looking to film a movie in Iran.
Mm.
And so Ben Affleck and John Goodman and a couple other actors, they set up this. They buy a real script, and they set up an office, and they set up a shop, and they get a director, and then they create identities for the six people that are in there, that are in
Wow.
Iran, and they use those fake identities to they try to use the fake identities to smuggle them out. And that movie was crazy. Like we watched that, we are like, okay, like that's a cool
And
movie,
that's
and like
based on a
that was
true
fun,
story.
and it's based on a true story. It's a lot of fun.
Right,
And
so
then
see, that's an example.
of what?
Like I'll hear a story about that, and then it's like, oh, that makes me a little bit more open to believing in conspiracy theories, because then it's like, oh, like these guys
Oh,
literally did,
sure, dude.
like it's
Yeah, that's the
stuff
thing.
like
Yeah,
that
yeah,
that
yeah.
makes you believe in conspiracy theories, because you
Because it's
don't
not a
realize
conspiracy
things like
theory. I mean, yeah,
it's
and the
not
problem is that they'll never
exactly like
admit
you
it.
wouldn't have believed that's ever real, and then all
Yeah.
of a sudden, like it's like that movie, The Spy, also.
Which one?
um, The Spy, or that show on TV with I think what's his name, Ellie Cohen, maybe, who snuck
Oh,
in
the
and
Jewish
goes,
spy. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yes, that's
One of
like
Grandma
that's
Dana, one of Grandma Dana's brothers is friends with him. I forgot who.
oh, that's
Um,
crazy.
Uncle Itzhak or Yankel or something was friends with
Yes, so
him.
a story like that is like I can't even comprehend
Yeah,
that
dude.
whole thing. Like, not only it's one thing to spy, it's another thing to be one of them, like get them to believe you so much that he rose up in the government there. Like
But
that is
I mean, a
just
lot of these people were ethnically Arabs. Like,
they
like even
had
if you
that
think
in their blood. You're saying,
like for example, even like Grandma Dana's family or grandma,
right,
like they're Yemenite, right? Like
right, right, right,
they're legit Arabs. Yemenites are
right, right, right,
legit
right,
Arabs, and
right,
they just happen to be
100%,
Jews, and then they moved to Israel. But like,
right.
I mean, if they speak Arabic and they look
They
like
have,
Arabs,
yeah,
and they grew up with Arabs, and like
right,
they
right.
know, like they're perfect. Like just because, like okay, so
They
your
basically
religion is
are,
Jewish, but they
yeah,
are Arabs, right? Exactly.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
think the reason why it's so cool or crazy for us is if you think about it, because America is so isolated that like like if you go to Europe, you go to the Middle East, or you go even to China, Russia area,
Hmm.
everyone is kind of on each other's butts. Everyone's up each other's butts. Like like every like the lines for what makes your country or neither country, are just arbitrary. Like it's all one plot of land, right? And so
Right.
like your neighbors are a lot closer than you are, and like you're constantly on. Like
You think
an
everything's very
invasion is
close
always
together?
possible, right? Everything is like, yeah, the threats are always
Oh,
like right there, but America is
mm,
so far isolated from all those
right.
people that
Mm,
we never grew like that's why we never grew up with wars in America.
right.
Like
That's a good call.
even you have like you have wars between England and Ireland, right, or
Yeah.
Northern Ireland, or you have obviously the Middle East, or you have all the stands, or Eastern Europe, or all that. It's because they're all like in each other, like all in each other's business. But like
Hmm.
none of them are in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, just like separated by thousands of miles of water. So,
Right.
so we're kind of we're that's what makes America so unique. It's just that like even geographically, like we're self-dependent, for a lot of things, or we started off
Yeah.
that way, and also like we're isolated. Like you can't really get to us. Like yeah, Mexico could and Canada could,
Right.
but like
Right. But
that's the extent of it.
and that's the interesting thing, is that even throughout all this chaos with the presidency and all the everything that's been going on lately, it's like it still is one of the best places you could live.
It is the best place, dude.
Almost like
Where like
regardless
there's
of
almost nowhere
who the
I
president
can't think of
is.
another place. You
Yeah.
know?
It's almost literally regardless of who would have won. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
even,
Totally. Everyone made it seem like it's the most important election. Maybe listen,
hmm,
maybe it was, maybe it wasn't.
yeah,
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
But
Right.
I think but people have used the phrase most important election for every
Hmm.
election in American
Every
history.
year,
So,
yeah.
like it doesn't
Oh,
really mean so
this
much.
one's gonna be big. This one's gonna be different than all of them.
The
Okay,
only thing
buddy,
that
it's
I could
basically the
say,
same.
the only thing that I can really say that made this one different, and I think that it was different. I think that no matter what the outcome was, it's permanently different. Is the different that the impact that podcasts and Twitter have had on
On the
everything.
election.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Mm.
dude, Theo Vaughn's podcast with Trump and JD Vance, you
So
know?
funny.
Like like it's yeah, it's ridiculous, but like no
Oh
one
my
else is
God.
getting that kind of content. If anyone's watching, you know, like millions of people are watching and getting an idea of what someone's like, you know, what Trump is
Exactly.
like, that like the regular news, ABC, Fox, MSNBC, they haven't
Hmm.
said in 10, they haven't fair about it in 10 years, and all of a sudden people are being fair about it, and you're
Well,
like,
it's
well,
also not
maybe
even
this is more
natural
legit.
when they're there. Yeah, it's not natural when they're on the news and stuff.
Yeah,
Like the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
podcast is like they'll maybe give you a rundown of the script and they'll say like, yeah, don't talk about this, don't talk about that. But otherwise, like you're getting just a natural. And it's
Flow.
interesting because when we grew up, like celebrities and everyone in the entertainment industry, like they were never people that I felt like I would ever hear from or like hear about.
Or if you
And
did,
then
you'd be
all of
like,
a
"Oh, shut
sudden,
up! You're just a celebrity." Like that's also
right, and then all of a sudden the podcast culture started. The first podcast I actually got into, and I don't know if this is weird or not, but you know, like Logan Paul,
no, I don't. I've heard the name, but his
Impulsive, it's called.
brother's the one that's fighting Mike Tyson, right?
Yeah, that's his brother.
Yeah.
So he had a podcast, and he started having, I don't remember who it was that he had, but I was just so intrigued by like always looking at these people through social media or seeing them in movies and like just being like, wow, that guy's such a good actor, he's so cool. And then to like shift over to them being like, oh, so like where'd you grow up, like what's your family like all this stuff, and then hearing them talk about it is just like, what, it's like, oh, like these are people, like they're just normal people,
But that's
like
why I think
yeah,
that
they're
people. That's why
actors,
people
but
trust. That's why people trust podcasters more than celebrities. I think because
mhm,
podcasters put themselves,
it's authentic.
excuse me, in a much more authentic environment.
Yeah,
That like
100%.
even let's say you don't even agree with someone, it's a lot easier to disagree with someone that you know or that appears to be like I mean, you never know for sure, but you can tell, you can really kind of tell a person, like if you listen to a podcast pretty regularly, if
Hmm.
someone posts pretty regularly, you can
Yes.
tell
Which ones
what
are
someone's
authentic?
personality is like, and like which one
Right.
feels a little bit more staged and which one feels a
Hmm.
little bit more
Yes.
organic, you know, like
Yes. Yes.
one
Yes.
of them feels more like a talk show and one of them feels more like an interview, and like
A
yeah,
hundred percent.
you know, there's good places for both of them, but it's funny because I think like you hear a lot now about comedians
Hmm.
being, you know, being a voice and like act like really
Yeah.
important voices in
I mean,
the
isn't the
work.
president of Ukraine was a comedian?
Yeah,
Do
he
you know
was
that?
Zelensky.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's
even
right.
that is so interesting.
Yeah, it is, and you know, and a lot of these comedians are really really smart.
Yes. By the
Um,
way, I noticed that so much. It's like
it's crazy.
weird
It's
to
they're
see
brilliant. They're
that. Yeah, they're
brilliant.
brilliant.
But it's they're almost they're like the modern day hippies in the sense that like they're able to they don't really play everyone's game that
Hmm.
everyone else is playing,
Yes,
and
definitely
they're able to
not.
take a step back from, because they're not playing everyone else's game, they're able to take a step back and like observe things in their
Hmm.
own way, you know. And like in the '60s and the '70s, they'd express it through music and like art. I think
Right.
nowadays people express it through comedy bits and
Through
routines
comedy,
because
yes.
yeah, because I mean, you could really get you. You know, I forgot who said it, but like you keep like comedians keep ourselves in check. They make sure we don't take
Yes.
ourselves too seriously,
Exactly,
and
yes.
like if you can't, you know, and people like there are obviously jokes that I like more or less, especially nowadays about Israel and stuff like that, and like, but I still understand that like
I get
whatever they're saying, they're
yeah.
joke like yeah, they're you
I
know
get what
like
they're trying to do.
they're saying no. They're saying that yeah. They're making a dry observation from the
Hmm.
outside that's put in kind of in a like a non-partial way,
Right.
and or even through a comedic lens where it's like, guys, get your shit together. It's like, yeah, kind of right. You know, like I
Yeah.
hear you. You know, like
100%.
I understand how you would come to that conclusion. You know,
Yeah.
so it's
I mean,
fun.
I
It's
think the
cool.
world would be a very dark place without people dropping those one, like obviously there's so many things where there's like an elephant in the room, but it's like those guys are the people that like double down on the elephant and also make it
Yeah,
funny. So it's
that's right.
like
But then they
there's no
remove it
way you
by
just said that.
acknowledging it. They
Yeah.
get rid of it by acknowledging it. You know.
100%, 100%. I mean, everyone says like comedy is like the best route to take. I mean, in most situations, I would say. I mean, who doesn't want to be, who doesn't like being around a funny guy? You know,
Yeah.
like in terms of
Well, the
a
people that don't
girl
like are the
and
people that can't take
guys.
the people that can't take jokes. That's the problem.
Right.
People that are so
Those people are
self-righteous
the
that they can't.
worst.
Well, yeah, but you know what? I think that if you're not really confident in your own perspective,
Mm.
and maybe there's other cases too, but I think that the primary cause is the people that aren't so confident in their perspective and they feel like they're constantly under attack, and then someone
Right.
makes a joke, like they're more reacting in terms of
Mm.
their, in
Their
terms of
own,
their
it's their own
insecurity.
situation. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Than the
That's a lot
comedian
of,
himself.
yeah, that's not even also just funny. That's a lot of time. That's just daily. Some guy flips you off and yells at you because, you maybe didn't signal fast enough or you didn't go when the light turned green fast enough. All that stuff is usually, he's probably having a terrible day. It has nothing to
Yeah.
really do with you. The problem is just that, like, usually people get intimidated by that. You get nervous or embarrassed. Did I just do something wrong? He's honking at
Yeah,
me. He's gonna
dude.
get out of his car and beat the hell out of me now. It's like all stuff like that is all has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with the other person. Um,
I yeah, it's funny that you yeah, I agree. I think I'm reading a book now. It's called The Occasional Human Sacrifice,
mm,
and it's a book about whistleblowing on dangerous medical procedures, and the book is all about different cases where like people would do terrible immoral things in medical trials,
mm,
and different psychological trials, or trials with different drugs, or trying to like in the 60s someone was taking Holocaust survivors and injecting them with live cancer cells,
oh my god.
um, and and three Jewish people had to blow the whistle on them. And there's a case that was going on for a long time. I think about a study that was putting actual case of syphilis in black people, and trying to see what the black how black genetics responded to syphilis, and like crazy shit like that, or even like there's like even more recently, like 20, I think it was 2004 or five, like there was a drug trial for antipsychotics, and they took someone who was already mentally unstable, and his mom kept on complaining and trying to get him out of the trial, and they kept on
Mm,
giving him medicine. He eventually killed himself,
mm,
and like and and so there was a study that was done after where someone in a lab coat would come in, and would come into a room, and you'd be the sub. It's there'd be whatever, someone's a subject, and there's a guy in a white coat, and he tells you that we have to do this study, and you have to push this button to shock this person, and like
mm.
an enormous amount of pain, and the
I think I
person's in
know
the
what
other
you're talking
room,
about.
but you could see their silhouette and you could still hear them. So he makes you push the button, and the
Mm,
person starts screaming in pain,
mm-hmm.
and how many people would continue doing it because the person in the
Yeah.
lab coat told them to do it, or how many people would
Right.
break off from the authority?
That's very
33%,
interesting.
33% of people broke off. 66% of people
Kept doing it.
um, kept doing it, and to the point where it would have killed would have killed the person if the person was actually doing the study.
Well, I
So
think
like
stuff like that, yeah, stuff like that also stems from
that
like,
shows you that people just are just looking up to authority, like just looking for
yeah,
authority to tell them what to do. Myself
especially with
included, by the
like
way. I'm like that.
cops. Yeah, I think cops kind of push that narrative a lot because some of those guys, I mean, obviously I support the police, but I'm saying some of those guys definitely get a little power high, you
Dude,
know?
any human being that is given control over other people
Mm-hmm.
feels a temptation for power, and the best ones are the ones that don't want to be in that leadership role, that are pushed into it, and they don't want to abuse it. Anyone that like
Right.
wants to be a cop, why? Like,
Mm-hmm.
if your answer is because I want to, like I like having like that control over people and giving people tickets, you're like, dude,
Yeah.
you should
Lock
not be
that
a
guy
cop, man.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, seriously. But also, like, I mean, you can even tell with teachers. Like, you have
Yes.
teachers where like they shut like you have teachers that will help students become themselves, and teachers that
Try to
that, that fail
mold the kid
students
into what they want.
unless they do exactly what the teacher wants, exactly.
Exactly.
And it's like, what are you trying to accomplish here? And like, what is this power trip that you're
It's
on
a
that you're trying
major problem.
that you're trying to just like turn this class of like 16-year-olds into mini yous? Like, dude, like,
It's
what are you doing?
insane.
Yeah,
And
what are you doing?
there's also the factor of like, first
But
of all,
siblings are like that, parents are like that. You know,
yes,
it's a human
and you put a lot
quality.
of and a mother or a father takes their child and puts them into school, basically putting so much faith in like the teachers and the education
Yeah,
system, being like, okay, like I'm not a teacher, I have a job, my wife, whatever, she has a job too. Take my child and educate him, and like
yeah,
he's gonna come in every day. You're gonna send him home every day with work, like educate him, build him up into this person. And then, yeah, for example, I was just talking to a girl because I went to LA and I met a girl there, and she was telling me how like right after the election, like the teacher spent like 30 minutes like talking about how pissed she was that Trump won, and it's like this. No one's here to hear about your political, like your.
yeah.
It's like we're here to learn.
I didn't talk about it at all to my
Yeah,
students.
because
You
it's
know,
like I don't understand like when it's like that part where they're intertwining like their own thoughts and their own things that they believe in, and they're like, all right, you guys have to do this because this is my class.
although
It's like
could you,
that is so
although
not how
could
it
you,
works.
but could you see? Do you think? Let's say you really believe that Trump becoming president was like really like a terrible thing to happen to this country, right? And like you
Mm-hmm.
really felt it, and like do you really believed everything you see on the media, right, or on like the mainstream media, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like you really like I could understand where they're coming from if they really feel like the entire world's about to change and they want to warn the class about that. Like, what would you do? You know, like
And
I'm not forgiving it. I don't think that it's the right thing to do. Um, I
I would
probably think
make
there's
listen.
even more a
I would give
nuanced
an
way to go about
opinion.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would give my opinion, but I would probably more like if I'm gonna rant about it, like I'm gonna go home to my family and like rant to them.
yeah.
I'm not gonna rant to all
I'm
these
gonna
kids that are like here for an
get.
education and paying to be here, like expecting to like learn, and then get it instead getting like vented to about like just whatever, like
Yeah.
obviously just negative, And in the end of the day, like what you like, it's the concept of like arguing about something that's out of your control. Like you're gonna go into your class after Trump already won and start ranting about all these bad things. Like
By the
this
way, I
is the
think
whole
that's
thing
why
of the
people.
world. You need to learn to like work with what the out like. It literally all leads back to like you get what you get and you don't get upset. It's like when they hand you a lollipop and you're in kindergarten. Like
So, dude,
like
there was this movie. The second movie I watched last night, back, relating directly to this, is this movie called American History X. It's an older movie. It came out in '98. It was the movie that really, I mean, Ed Norton's in it, and he's just incredible. And the movie is about like a Nazi skinhead that who's Ed Norton, right? And he grew up like and like a racist and hates Jews and hates anyone pretty much except for white Americans, right?
mm,
And he goes to he goes to prison for killing a black kid, and he's reformed in prison. Like he gets out of it pretty much, and he gets out of prison to find out that his younger brother is now full on in the this skinhead KKK kind of like
wow.
clan, and so the movie's about him trying to get his brother out of it, right?
Mm,
And one of the ways
that's
that he had
scary.
his mind changed in prison, right? He's complaining about all these problems with all these immigrants and all these, and the government is just helping these, these poor communities, and they give a shit about the working people, and then someone interrupts him and goes, "Dude," they're like, how the way you know whether you're right or wrong is like how is like what decisions have you ever made to make your own life better, like to
Right.
make your life in the world better, and like
Mm-hmm.
if your answer is nothing, like nothing you've ever
Yeah.
done has ever made yourself, your family, or your world around you's life better, then
Hmm.
I don't care how sound your logic is or how
Yeah.
convincing you could be, you know, because like the guy's
Hmm.
really convincing. I texted back
Right.
Alexandra while I was watching this, and I was like, dude, if you were watching this monologue, you'd become a Nazi. Like he's like, thanks,
I feel
but
you.
but then but you know, so like, and that's a funny thing about being like a quick talker and a really smart person. Smart
Hmm.
people could make anything could twist anything
Sounds,
to
yeah.
sound good or sound reasonable or sound
Hmm.
pretentious at least. And
Hmm.
so a lot of times it just has to come back to like taking a step back and being like, listen, dude, like maybe whatever you're saying, I'm not even going to argue with you. What have you, what have you done to make like that
Right.
like what have you
100%.
done to make your life better, to make anything better, you know? And if the answer is
Yeah.
nothing, then like I don't care, man. Like it's not,
What
it's just
backing do you have?
yeah, exactly. There's
It's
nothing
like
there.
going to a homeless person and asking for financial advice. It's just not, you're not going to
Yeah,
get the right information. And it's funny because there's this show that I used to watch called Come Fly With Me. It's like a British sitcom type of show.
I've heard of
And
that.
there's like there's one scene where I might have sent you some of the videos because it cracks me up. But there's one scene where like there's a guy there and he's like TSA feeling everyone up, and then all of a sudden some guy walks over to him and he's like, "Sir, do you have ID on you?" And he's like, "ID?" He's like, "I haven't gotten any on me." And he's like, "You don't work here, do you?" It's like everyone's just going in line, like getting like molested by this guy who
That's
doesn't even
so
work there.
funny.
It's such
That's
a funny
crazy. Yeah, but by the
thing.
way, no one would ask questions, I bet. I mean,
Yeah,
when's the last
no
time you
one
checked your
does.
TSA person's,
And that also, yeah, it also I think also circles into the whole like concept of like when you know when you're sitting with a bunch of friends and like no one can decide on a movie and it's like
yeah,
everyone's like
it's like
or you're
every
going but you're
Saturday night
trying
of
to
my
go
life.
out, yeah, or like you're
Yeah,
trying to go out and like no one can decide where to go and it's like usually like if you just make the decision, everyone will follow and
yeah,
everyone will usually have a good time. So it kind
yeah,
of leads to that in the sense of like most people are like in their car but are afraid to put their foot on the gas. When
yeah.
it's like if you
Myself
just are
included,
the
dude.
one who does
It's
that.
hard
Yeah,
to
no,
do.
I mean me too. Who doesn't? You know, everyone. I mean, and then I think it comes back to that whole thing is a balance because you don't want to be too always putting your foot on the gas, you know?
Yeah,
Because
dude.
then, you gotta think about the decisions you make sometimes. Sometimes you're like, oh, maybe this isn't the right thing for me to do. Maybe this is right. You know, you don't want to always be on go on offense, obviously. But,
I've been thinking a lot recently because I've had so many things I'm trying to do and
mm,
I want to do well in my life. You know, the podcast, teaching, being, you know, a husband, being a dad, you know, being
hmm,
religious, you know, making money, keeping up my house, exercising, you know,
yeah,
like all these things. And and I and I also like to write and play and like, you know, play guitar
of
and
course.
get and hopefully want to get better at it, right? I don't want to just do the exact same
Yeah,
thing forever. And I'm having such a difficult time finding like
yeah,
balancing
I
my
was gonna
time and
ask.
balancing like, you know, like between putting my foot on the pedal and like going on cruise control for a little bit with certain
Right.
things while I give more attention to other things, you know?
Hmm. Hmm.
It's really, really hard to do, dude. And I think as like, and one of my, you know, because one of my biggest fears in general has always been to not to run out of time
Hmm.
before I get to do everything that I feel, you know, or at least a lot of the things that are really, really meaningful to me, you
Right.
know,
Yeah.
and in order to get there, there's like all these things take a lot of time and effort to do. You know, I mean, a podcast isn't going to be successful for years, and you know, to you know, being a good teacher takes a lot of effort to, you know, on a daily basis if you're going to be a good teacher because not only your material is going to be good, not all the students are going to like your classes. You're going to have
Right.
to improvise. You're going to have to, you know, work with what works and take away what doesn't. You know, you got to be a present, like being present in your like, and I mean, I don't know if you know this from any of your previous relationships, but I'm sure you do. That like relationships that like, you know, are always there, like, you know, like, or let's say a consistent girlfriend or, you know, a spouse or a child or a parent or a sibling.
Hmm.
Um, they're the easiest ones to kind of take for granted because like you know they're always there. So like
Right.
you don't really feel like you have to always be digging deeper
Be
and
there,
getting to
yes.
getting to putting all your all into it. And
100%.
and like and
The truth
that's how
is you do.
relationships die. That's it
Yeah,
really. And like yeah, I mean
exactly.
like we'll still be spouses, we'll still be siblings, we'll still be whatever. But like if you don't do work, then it's just a title. Like it's just this very thin superficial layer just kind of hanging on, keeping you guys together.
A hundred
And that's not,
percent.
and you don't want that, dude. You really don't. I mean, there's so many people that are
Yep.
like that, and it's so sad, you know?
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely that's definitely something that is 100% taken for granted. And I mean, it's you see examples of it kind of happening all the time, you know, like
Yeah, because
I
it's so
have
easy to
best
screw up.
friends
It's
from
human
high
nature.
school. Yeah, best friends from high school that like at some point maybe I didn't answer a call and then it led to, we're playing phone tag. And then next thing you know, like I haven't spoken to them in months. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's
Mm-hmm.
just like it just and I'm big on like I don't like I'm not gonna sit there and focus on that. Like if I think about you, like I'm just gonna reach out to you again and be like, yo, I apologize that, we've
Yeah,
been a
I'm
little
pretty good
on the
about that too.
disconnect. Yeah, because it's like
You got to do that.
you gotta just take action at some point. Like
Yeah.
even today I went to play pickleball with a few of my friends and my friend like pickleball, I don't know if you know about too much about it, but it's like a scene in New York. Like it's like a dating scene.
It's a scene all
Like
over the world, dude.
yeah,
It's
so it's like
crazy.
people like wait around for the court to open, and everyone's like schmoozing with each other. So it's
So
like
nice.
yeah, so it's like this kid was like essentially he's been hanging out with this girl, not even like anything crazy. Like they went to the gym. He's trying to just kind of I guess develop something. And the point is, sorry, I don't know if it cut out. I can't really hear you.
No, I'm
Can you
here.
hear me?
I'm here. I'm
Yeah.
here.
So the point is that they linked up like to join us for pickleball, but like she brought a guy friend with her. So it was her, a girl, and then this other guy. And so like the whole time he was like bugging out. He's like, dude, like are they together? Like I don't know. I'm like, bro, like just ask her. Like we're sitting here like
Yeah.
talking about this for
What
35
happened
minutes.
in the
You're
end?
having all these like you're getting all mellow and you're sad and it's like all this. I'm like, dude, just ask her. Like you're wondering, like take the action and like find out.
Did he?
Um, he ended up doing it, obviously, and obviously she's like, "Yeah, no, we're not together." And I'm like, "Dude, like this is what I'm saying. Like you just spent half of the day like in a bad mood when you could have literally gotten a response on it like within 5 minutes." And I mean,
Yeah,
that's
because
all about
confrontation
just like
sucks.
confrontation does suck, but
There's
a
certain people
quote
that
I heard
like it, but
once.
I think most people hate it. And most people would rather be miserable
I don't
than
know
deal with
who. Yeah,
confrontation.
I guess lawyers probably like it, but I
Nah, they're
can't.
personality
Confrontation is something
types.
that I definitely struggle with myself, 1,000%.
Yeah,
Um,
dude.
and I think also a lot of that stems from like family. Obviously, I was actually last night we went to this restaurant, and
Hmm.
my friend he knows these two girls, whatever, and they invited us to come to their place, just like chill, chat a little. One of them was married, but she's a psychologist. And I just like to like pick the brains of psychologists and stuff. She was
Yeah.
just saying like
What'd you
majority of the
notice?
thing, um, they're easier to connect to. Like they like it's very. I like when I can get onto a conversation with someone and get to like a deep level very fast. I
Mm.
noticed that I felt more okay with being open about like myself when we were
Right.
talking. Like despite the fact that there were other people in the room, like it just like didn't phase me as much.
Do you think she was going into
Um,
psychologist mode and like you just responded to that, or you?
yeah, 100%, 100%. She was. She like wanted to give me a hug goodbye when I left. I was like, oh yeah. I mean, like it was nice meeting you, but I don't know, she made it seem like it was like, I don't know. It was funny. I mean, it was good. That's the thing. I enjoyed it, and like it's exactly what I'm looking for because if I can gain something out of a conversation with a person, then like I'd rather do that than sitting down and learning and reading like like I was never a school guy, so it's like I'm much more happy with meeting a good person with like experience in life that can like we can compare our life situations and basically just get some sort of a solution to whatever.
Yeah, or
But
at least some authentic thoughts and like some thought out thoughts.
yeah, yeah,
I
100%.
so I'm a huge, I believe that almost everyone should go to therapy. And I
Yeah.
also believe that the caveat to that, that I don't think everyone needs to if you have two or maybe even just one, but preferably probably
Hmm.
two or three people in your life that you can be
Yep.
vulnerable and open with,
Yep.
you
That's
know, and
exactly what I said to her. Yeah.
like that. People don't have that. People, you
No,
know,
not at all.
and vulnerability is really really scary, you know, like because
Hmm.
it's essentially giving someone a tool, but like a custom tool for you, and saying like I
Right.
really like I hope that you don't take advantage of this, and like I'm trusting you to like not
Hmm.
to not hurt me with this, you know,
Well, it's funny that
and
you say that because the girl from LA that I went on a date with was very basically outed like her whole life to me on the date. And like I'm not someone who's a judgmental person and like I didn't take it negatively. I took it in like a positive light. But like when I tell you that she like instantly like fell in love with me because of that,
yeah,
like it was
there are
too like I
lines,
had to
dude. There are lines.
unfortunately. Of course, yeah, no. So she definitely crossed some lines, but like for me, like I'm still gonna look at that as like okay, like this person needed to get this off their chest. Like I'm not, I'm gonna like
Yeah, me
be
there.
on your side when you're telling me stuff like this. But I mean, like whatever, it didn't end up working out because it was just too much, too fast. Maybe in the future it could be, but for the time being. But I was just so intrigued by like how obviously people have like she even told me that people reacted badly when she's told them that stuff and like just the way that like I think a lot of guys strive like you go out a lot to try and like get girls to like you and get girls like and like something as simple like as that was just like the turnaround time to how fast this girl was like obsessed with me was like just like wild.
Yeah, and obviously there's probably a healthy way to go about it.
Yeah.
But it could also be, but you know, there are also people that really are starving for an authentic relationship. You know,
Yes, yes, yes.
the problem is that like at the end of the day, vulnerability is important for getting to the next part of a relationship, but you
Hmm.
also have to figure out who you can trust with the weapon, or like the tool. And when you know when I say weapon, I'm talking about a weapon, like the weapon to yourself, the vulnerabilities in your life, my fears at will I be a good enough husband? Will I be a good enough God, person? Will I be able to succeed in this? Will I be able to am I
Hmm.
going to fail in this? Have I failed before? And like to open up with someone, you got to know who you got to. There has to be some kind of yardstick as to how you're
Yeah.
going to decide if you're going to trust the person or not.
Right, right,
And
right.
that's really important too, because if you go and just, let anyone, it's like sleeping with your house unlocked, I mean, you're kind of just
Yeah.
waiting for something to happen. And
Exactly.
nothing might happen for a long time, and hopefully you don't get hurt, but you can't count on that.
I think most people will use things like that to their own advantage and then
Says the
end up
guy that leaves
not
his
not.
car unlocked until it got stolen out of his driveway, by the
Right.
way. But,
You worry too
I.
much. You worry too much.
And then it's so funny because my wife started leaving the key in the car after my car got stolen. I'm like, I love you. I before this happened, I wouldn't care. I'm like, but you and I both saw how much of a mess that was to have a car stolen. Like, it's so not
Yeah.
convenient. But
Most
like
inconvenient thing just happened to me today.
you wouldn't
Car
believe it.
got
My car was
stolen.
unlocked and left the key in the car, and then someone came and took it. I was like
I
shocked.
was driving in downtown Philadelphia with a
Dude,
load of
I
cabs
no.
in my trunk.
When my car got stolen, I found out it got stolen. I was up early. I
They
was up at
left
like
it on the highway,
5:30
right?
for a jog. What?
You're saying they left it on the highway, right?
Yeah, they did, but they found it. They took the car at like I think at like midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning. I went to a friend of mine to smoke a cigar, and I came back. I left the car unlocked. I didn't leave the key in the car. I left it unlocked, and
Street.
the next morning. and I'm about to go for a jog, and I walk out my townhouse, and you know my old townhouse just had
Of
there's no
course.
front porch. It's just the it's just
Right.
two parking spots. So,
Hmm.
and my car's not in my parking spot. And I look over at the guest parking. I'm like, maybe I parked there last night. And I'm like, no, it's not there. And
Hmm.
I go back inside. And I wake up Rachel. I'm like, what?
Dude, what the heck?
Where's the car? And she's like, is it not in the driveway? I'm like, it's not in the driveway. So I call the cops and I go for a jog because I knew the cops weren't going to come for a while, and they didn't
Hmm.
actually until I was like 2 blocks back from home. And
Hmm.
and and while the cop told me, first of all, while I was on the phone with him, he got 3 calls about stolen cars at like 6:30 in the morning, right?
That's
Like
wild.
people were like, he got 3 calls of people waking up with their car gone. One of them had like a beautiful BMW. I forgot what it was. It was one of the SUVs, one of the big, expensive ones.
Mm.
And
Hmm.
she turned on the car and she went inside to, get something from the house, for like 2 seconds. And the person stole the car from her driveway while it was
Oh
on in
my
between her going
God.
inside to get her coffee or her lunch or whatever it was. Um, Stole the car out of the driveway like that, you know? It's crazy, dude. Apparently, it happens a lot more often than we realize.
Didn't that also happen with that specific car a lot? Weren't you telling me that?
Oh, with my car, yeah, with the Kia
Hmm.
K5. I think from like 2018 to like 2021 or 2022 or something like that. I don't remember exactly which ones, but those years, apparently those model cars were very easy to break into. Kias and Hyundais, I
Hmm.
think they're the same manufacturer. Um,
That's
but
pretty
yeah,
wild.
it was crazy, dude. I mean, it's just such a it was such
I
a
can't imagine taking my car key to go outside and just being like, "Where the hell's
where
my
to
car?
go? Where to go, dude? It was
What is
yeah, it
happening
was,
right now?"
and then yeah, dude, and then they found it, and like to see your car, like I, it almost like I hope to never have this experience of like, like
Hmm.
you hear a story about like your kid falling and like hurting himself, and like you go see him, and
Hmm.
you're like, oh my God, what happened to you? Like I saw like my car was like a nice new, like, I mean, it was a lease, it was like, a year or
Hmm.
two old. And like then I went to the tow yard to get it, and I'm like, oh my baby, like what happened to my child,
The
dude? Like this is
tires are
so
ripped
sad. Like
apart. The
yeah,
doors,
like it was really
holes
crazy.
in
It was just these guys took it for a joyride and just left it.
it.
It's
Hmm.
crazy.
I
We're
wanted to
able,
ask you because I
yeah.
was curious. I've always been because I mean, obviously I don't have kids yet, but I have a niece and nephew now. And one time, I'm not the biggest Kanye West fan anymore, obviously, but he has this quote or line or whatever where he talks about how when there's a child and they have this big imagination and the child goes up on the coffee table and they're acting like Superman, and then the parent like scolds them and says like, no, get off the table, like that's a coffee table, like don't go on there, and it kind of like cuts down their imagination a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And that I get intrigued by that, but the reason I'm bringing it up is because like now that I have like a niece and nephew, and obviously I'm asking you because you have a child yourself. When you are like not even disciplining, but when like how do you even steer, or do you even try and steer the child in like what is your approach in a sense of like, because obviously you want to teach your kid like, you know, obviously don't put a fork into
Eyeball.
yeah, eyeball, or when you plug the wall socket, to
Yeah.
plug something in. It's like obviously you don't want to like when if you see your kid going to do that, like obviously you are gonna want to tell them not to do it. But it's like how far do you take that whole like concept of like, oh, I'm gonna let them fall and learn, or oh, I'm gonna stop them
The
from
yeah.
jumping to begin with. It's like, what? How do you
No,
even like?
the way I read this amazing book. It's amazing for if you're whether you're a parent or not. It's called The Anxious Generation, by this
I've
guy
heard about
Jonathan
this
Haidt.
book. I've heard about this. My
Incredible book,
uncle read it. My dad read it as well.
dude. Incredible book. But one of the things that the guy emphasizes repeatedly is he calls the rule of scrapes but not breaks, right? Like you could like your kid could like
Mm.
scrape his knees and scrape his elbows, but like a break obviously is not what you're looking for, And so
Right.
you got so it's pretty much like you gotta basically make this. First of all, you have to know that kids are
Sponges.
resilient, and kids are they're built like they just bounce up from things, like
Yeah,
most
it's
of
crazy. It's crazy,
most of the
honestly.
time, I've noticed that like when my shoe has fallen or bumped his head or anything, most of the majority of the time that he cries, unless it gets a legit hit, like if he like
Hmm.
falls off a chair and like hits his
Right.
head, like okay, that's one thing, but most of the time it's our reaction that he reacts to. So like
Mm.
I have to stop myself if
Interesting.
he falls, let's say from a lower level, like off his like he has a little chair with a little table that he eats on.
Right. Right.
Um, it's really cute. But if he falls off that chair and like he looks shocked for a second, I have to stop myself from going because I
Right.
like it's natural to you like you want to be like, oh crap, like like I
That's
don't want my kid to hurt
interesting.
himself, but like
Hmm.
if he hears that, then he'll panic too, like what's going on, is everything okay,
Right. Right.
and he'll
Right.
start to cry. So generally speaking, like he's playing on the couch, okay, like let him play on the couch. If you like to stick a fork into an outlet, I'm gonna stop him.
Yeah. No.
But
Yeah. I hear you.
I, and I also think that even in terms of his schedule, we give him a lot of freedom because
Yes, I like that.
a lot of times kids they have their own, they have like they're very in tune as to what they need, period. Like they're in tune as to whether they're hungry or not. They're in tune as to whether they're tired or not. They're in tune as to whether or not they're comfortable. And if like they'll lead you along the way and be like, okay, he's crying now. He's crying probably because he's hungry. If he's
Hmm.
crying and he's refusing to eat, and I see a tooth coming in, I'm gonna give him some Tylenol, But
Right.
like, you have to, you basically have to like just look at the kid, just look at the scenario and be like, what? He's not nuanced. He's not subtle. He's not manipulative yet. He's just learning now
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
what things will get reactions. So for example,
Right.
if he hits me or Rachel, we'll go like, and he'll immediately cover his mouth. And he stopped doing this. He used to babble an excuse. He'd be like, blah, 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 blah,
Hmm.
blah, blah, ah?
That's
and
hilarious.
like and I'm like,
I swear I wasn't even there. I was with my
yeah, like I'm so sorry. She got so angry so quickly, and it just happens. And like, I'm like, dude, it's okay, man. I'm sorry that
boys.
but like, just don't do that again.
That's a good call. That's funny. No,
Dude,
because I
he
see
loves
him
UFC now.
always. That's
Dude,
crazy.
I shit you not, dude. He I showed him what a fist bump is, right? So he calls it a boom
Hmm.
because I go after the fist bump,
Hmm.
right? And so he loves fist bumps, and I usually host the main UFC fight nights at my house now with my friends.
Mm.
So Saturday nights, it'll be anywhere between 2 and 8 people
Yeah.
over, and sometimes he gets woken up, and so I'll bring him out. And, my wife's pissed off about that, but I bring him out to sit down and have some pizza and hang out with us.
Hmm.
And, and it's, 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. And, and he's sitting there and he's watching fights with us. And then he points to the TV. I was on YouTube. I was about to look up a video of a Grateful Dead concert. And, and one of the recommended videos was a fight, that happened. And he points at it and he goes, boom. I'm like, what? And
Oh
he goes,
my
boom.
God.
And I'm like, what do you mean, boom, man? And then I put on the video, and then I put on the Grateful Dead video. He goes, no, boom.
Oh
And
my
I'm like,
God.
okay, yeah, dude, he's a year and a half old. And so
That's
I put on the fight, and he
amazing.
and I are just sitting there watching the fight together. He's having the time of his life.
You
And
turn around. You turn around. You like you put one of your friends in a chokehold.
dude, he so that he really seems to like, I don't know. There's something about it that draws him, and he also loves to drum. He loves to like if we're
Nice.
listening to music, I'll drum on the table, and he loves drumming on the table or drumming on the
Hmm.
floor. Like I think that I don't know if I'm looking for something that's not there, but that's the kind of thing that you could start getting him like, you know. and like you can start for like helping develop his brain towards
Right.
that at a young age now. Like if he shows an interest in that, I could start introducing him in the next couple of months to drumming lessons. So drumming, like
Drumming lessons, yeah, or karate maybe, who knows,
yeah, 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 and seriously, like he'll he'll like his neural pathways are completely open right now, and
Hmm.
if he shows some kind of inclination towards something, if he'll enjoy it, then like this is what like I was hoping for something like this where like I could have some kind of indication to see what my kid is naturally interested in, and
Right.
help that along.
Hmm.
Um, but
Yeah, I just find it to be so interesting because it's like, obviously it's not my kids, like my niece and nephew, but sometimes when I'll play with her, I'll be like, should I be telling her not to do this? Like, should I be like, like, I don't know how
yeah.
much of like I'm supposed to be like it's not like I'm not like the parent, so it's like usually I had to just, yeah, like, you want to mix the Play-Dohs all into one thing? Like, go ahead. Like, I don't know if before you did this, like, obviously I'm not having this conversation with her, but I'm saying, like, in my head, I'm like, I don't know if before you, like, when you did this with mommy, like, she made sure that she wanted you to separate them, and now, like, we're playing, and now she's mushing it all together, and I'm like, obviously this is, like, obviously not a big deal, but, like, my point is, like, I get curious to know, like, how much should I be, like, or
Yeah,
how much
intervening.
does anyone even exactly intervening into that whole world that that she's living her imagination and like.
Yeah, I don't think for that, like, I think the question should always be, and I find this also, like, especially I found this more when I was a teacher, and I hope to, apply it to almost everything else. Like, if I give my students an assignment, let's say we watch a movie or, we read a book, and I want an assignment to see if they understood what the point was of what we're doing, right? And one
Mhm.
student would be like, can I do the assignment this way? Like, a lot of
Mhm.
times my snap reaction is like, no. And
Mhm.
and then I have to stop and think, why am I saying no?
Right.
What's the problem with them doing
Right.
it that way? And
Uh-huh.
then if it's really not the assignment, and like if they're like, oh, I don't want to do homework, how can I just go to 7-Eleven? I'm like, no, you idiot, like that's not happening. But if they're like, oh, can I tell the story this way, or can I write can I
Right.
make up a story with this? And as long as, and I'll be like, yeah, dude, like
Mhm.
if that's your way of being able to describe it, then as long as you check the boxes of what we're looking for in English class, which is to communicate and to express your opinions and thoughts and feelings about this, and to show me that you understood what it is we've been talking about, and you're able to
Mhm.
apply it to your own life. Do it however you want, dude. Like, it's not my
Right.
job to
Because
tell you
it
what. Yeah,
almost it almost kind of leads to what we were talking about before with like the teachers, because like essentially like for your son right now, like you are his authority figure. So it's like,
yeah,
I don't know. Obviously, it's different for your own child because, like, I'm sure there are things that you want him to like do, like just through your life experiences. And it's like, I always wonder, like, when I have a kid, like, am I even gonna try and like implement anything to the child, or am I gonna just kind of like
yeah. So
whatever
I
the
think
child
I think there
likes,
should be,
like?
dude. I think the reason why I think there should
Hmm.
be is because I think that life has, especially as a parent, like certain principles like responsibility, discipline, respect for yourself, and respect for the world around you. Those are ideas that you can help implement into any kid, and that could manifest individually based on the person, the way that, based on on their own selves, right? So
Hmm.
if I teach my kid, what discipline's really important, I'm not going to tell you what you have to be disciplined with. You could be a math person or a music person or a science person or an English person,
Right.
but as long as whatever you do, you're disciplined with, and you treat yourself with respect, and you're looking at try to how to find the balance in life between being
Hmm.
productive and taking care of yourself, and whatever, then yeah, take if you want to be an artist, be an artist. You want to be a musician, be a
Hmm.
musician. Just be disciplined, just be creative, just make sure that it's unique and it's your own voice. And
Right.
so those are things that you'll always be able to help teach kids, to encourage them. What the application should be, I don't think, I and maybe because I grew up out of the box, and like the only way I've ever found success in my life is kind of out of the box ways. But um, oh no, what was I gonna say? I totally forgot. It
Out of
was
the
totally
box. You grew up out of the box.
yeah. Before that, with my kid, crap! I can't believe I just lost my train of thought. Um,
But we were talking about basically how much of how much you want to put authority onto the child. As
Yeah,
in
yeah. So it
to
bothers
some
me, and
extent, I
sometimes
definitely
it
agree
bothers
because it
me.
is your
Sometimes it
kid.
bothers me. Like for example, if you have like a father that's a doctor, and his four kids are all doctors, right? Like it's
Hmm.
possible that all of them have a legit passion
Yeah.
for medicine,
Yes.
but it's also really possible that
That.
like there's an enormous amount of pressure being put on the kids
Yeah.
by the father to be the or by
Hmm.
the mother, whoever it is, to to to
100%.
to follow in their footsteps. And one of the themes I was trying to I talk to my students about every year is I showed them all the song "Father and Son" by Cat Stevens,
Mm.
and
Great song.
we
I
talk
love that
about the
song.
conflict. I was like, can you understand where the parent's coming from, where he sees
Hmm.
the pain and the mistakes that like life is, and how he wants to stop his kid from experiencing that pain. And the son is like, I get that you lived your life and you think you understand like, what works and what doesn't, but I'm myself. It's my own life,
Right.
and I think that life is like that tension exists as long as there's going to be parents and children. That tension of I love you. I don't want you to get hurt. So, trust me when I tell you to do things this
Trust me.
way. And you're like,
Yes.
dude, but that's you. That's your life. That's not
Yeah.
me.
Right.
Um, and on the flip side, it's funny because the thing that my dad and I fight most about in our lives, forever, are about traits that both of us that both of us have. That my dad sees that he knows, that he does, and he sees in me doing, and he's much harder on me about those things because he doesn't want me
Mm.
to be like that. And I'm like, how can you lecture me about this when you do
Hmm.
this yourself?
Yourself.
When you do
Yeah.
this too. And the
100%. I
answer,
can relate to that.
and for me, I'm an idiot for saying that because the answer is very clearly, well, I don't like that I do this, and I don't want my kid to do this either. And so
Right.
I'm not trying to come at you from a place of being a hypocrite. I'm coming from you from a
Hmm.
place of someone that wants you to be better than me.
Right. 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 100%. That's a great call.
Yeah. So it's a fine line. It's really I just I think that I think people are looking to have life figured out, and because the world is always changing, you're never going to have it really figured out. And
Right.
so what you have to trust
Mm.
eventually trust is yourself. You have to be able to just trust your own ability to make decisions in a world that's always
Right.
changing, and just trust
And I
your
hope,
gut.
yeah, and hope that as long as you're staying confident in yourself and true to yourself
and
and believe
and your
in
guiding
what
principles.
you
Yeah, the
believe in,
things.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So, dude, tell me about Tell me about California. Tell me about LA.
Oh, dude, it was honestly
By the
so
way,
like,
you've been to a lot of cities now with me,
yeah.
but you've been to a lot of cities even
Hmm.
without me. Um, you've been to, we've been together to Chicago, North Carolina,
Hmm.
Seattle, Oregon.
Seattle,
We did Yellowstone for a little bit. Remember? Um,
yes. Idaho.
Boise was beautiful, dude. Well, how
Um,
does LA rank in your in your big cities across America?
I mean, listen, LA was definitely not the same in a sense of what we did. I mean, we were kind of going,
Dude, underrated. We were in Chaz.
I don't know,
Remember I took you through Chaz?
Chaz,
That was in
remind me where that
Seattle when
is.
like they like overthrew like the local government, like they had all those camps set
Yes,
up.
yes, yes, I remember that. Yes, that
And
was crazy.
yeah, I remember everyone in my family was trying to get me to leave Seattle. I'm like, guys, it's so far. It's like you're living in like in Inglewood and there's riots happening in Harlem, and you're like, listen, like I'm not leaving
Oh,
Inglewood
we
now
gotta get
because
out
of
of
that. It's
here.
not.
Yeah.
There's like to
No,
do
I
with me.
mean,
But yeah, how does it compare? What
yeah.
do you think?
I mean, we were. I just would. I feel like when we were going to those places, I don't know how much of like the populated areas we were in. When we were there, I mean, just as a small thing that I liked was just simply working East Coast hours and
Yeah,
being done with work at 2:30 p.m.
I love that,
I was
dude.
just like, this is kind of awesome.
Dude, it's
Yeah.
the
So
best.
that
You start your day
alone, I was
earlier,
just
but
a
you
big
have a
fan of.
whole second day essentially.
Yes. Exactly. You do start your day earlier, but I mean, a lot of
A lot of people start the days
people
early.
who, yeah, a lot of people who, even people that work 9 to 5, I mean, it's just a success thing, just to be able to knock out, you know, waking up at 6, majority of the world is still kind of asleep. So, I mean, just being able to kind of try and get ahead in that sense.
And the
So
feeling
I
also at night of everyone in your life on the East Coast going to bed at like 7 for you, and
hmm
like you're not like everyone in your life is sleeping except for whoever you're with at the
yeah,
moment.
exactly.
I found it to be really freeing when we were in Seattle because I was
Yes.
like, dude, I have nothing like I have no one to text, I have no one to call. Like I'm just present
hmm
here with my friends every night because everyone else is sleeping.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, so I mean I love that aspect of it. Obviously the whole, Miami weather vibes where it's just beautiful out all day. And so, I think what comes with that is just literally simply like more people just smiling, like just happier in a sense of just like, yeah, it's beautiful weather. Go on a walk outside, why wouldn't I?
Did you
It's
feel
beautiful, it's
all the
nice.
crazy things that everyone talks on the news about, like homelessness and
No,
crime and
not at
everything?
all. That's
You
what
didn't feel that.
I kept telling my friends that. I was like, guys, like everyone keeps saying like all this, the governor is terrible there. Like, yeah, I've heard that and stuff. But I mean, or I probably didn't feel it only because I was just a visitor. But I mean, like in terms of just like, it was no different than New York City in that sense of homelessness. And I mean, we didn't really run into any crazy people or anything like that. We
Right.
were also in like Pico Robertson, which is where Ariel lives.
Oh,
Um,
do you see her?
No, they were in Israel, but I mean, it
Oh,
was that's just like the Jewish area there. So I mean, but I did. I mean, we really did it well. We went to. I mean, the truth is, dude, like all my friends now are just Sephardic, and either like
right.
Persian, Moroccan. Like I really am not around Ashkenaz people anymore, which is wild.
It's a totally
Um,
different world, though, right?
Totally different world. And like
It's
they were
crazy.
giving me
It's
these
really
Persian
crazy.
foods, and I was just like, dude, like I don't want to eat this. It looks gross.
Yeah,
And
but
like they
everything
came
they
and
make
like,
is amazing.
oh, dude,
I heard the
such
kosher
good
food in LA is
food.
incredible.
Yes, we had a lot of great food there. Um, but what I really liked is that we kept going to this Sephardic synagogue where they do like a young Sephardic professionals type of vibe. And it's very focused on just like meeting people. Like that is kind of like the goal. They're like,
Are there
oh, like we would
a
rather.
lot of single Orthodox Jews in LA?
So that's what it is. I wouldn't say Orthodox. They're all Persian.
Gotcha.
So like a lot of them will drive to shul, but they'll go to shul.
Yeah,
A
yeah,
lot of
yeah.
them, they'll
Hmm.
have Shabbat meals, but they'll have their phones out.
Yeah, totally.
So we went to this like they did a Sukkot party. We went. It was basically hookah, open bar, music, and then just in a sukkah. Like it was just in a sukkah.
Do you know anyone that
And
isn't Sephardi that smokes hookah still? Dude,
such a good call. Definitely no.
I don't know anyone that like hookah's hookah was part of my life for like a year and a half, and then
hmm
no one smoked it after that. Like
yeah.
it
It
just
kind of just
stopped.
died
It's
out. You
crazy.
know what?
I
It's
think
probably
your
the
vaping killed it.
vapes that
Yeah,
killed it.
dude.
Yeah.
But hookah was a chill. I used to set up
Hookah, it still is a chill. That's the truth because I mean, you're not gonna
it's
see
so
a
bad for you though, dude.
yeah. You're not gonna
It's like
see
the
like a
worst.
60-year-old Moroccan man vaping. He's probably gonna have a hookah with
Or
whatever.
a cigarette.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but the point of it was is that when we went there, within like I would say literally 10 minutes of getting there, we literally ran into like one of the hosts. So like right off the bat, like we're three New Yorkers. We have basically knowing no one there. We bought a
Right.
ticket just cause. Um,
What was it like?
and then right away we meet the host, and she's like introducing us to all these girls and like being like, "You, this is like a cool spot. You guys are gonna be like the safe zone or whatever." Just basically hit it off,
Right.
and like that kind of just opened us up because like we just met. Like she ended up speaking at the event, so it's like we went there within 10 minutes. We met like the top person to meet,
Right.
and then that just had a big impact on the rest of the trip because we went to a few other events that they had, and we were able to be like, yeah, we know this person. We got
Are
into
the people there
everything.
nice? What are the people there like?
Yeah, I mean they're nice, I would say. I would probably say nicer than New Yorkers. But then again, I do think that a lot of that has to do with just the fact that we were visiting. So like if I was just a regular there, like I don't think it would have been as pleasant of an experience per se. But I mean, it's possible it would have.
Do you feel? I feel that way about Manhattan. I feel like the people that visit there are like, you know, they're entranced by like everything and everyone like
Yeah.
that, oh, my friend, this is my buddy visiting, and everyone's like, oh, you're gonna have a great time, we're gonna go out here,
Hmm.
there, there. And then like the people that live it every single day or every single week, it's not, you can't
Like,
have the
oh, where
same
do you live?
enthusiasm. It's
Lower East
impossible.
Side. Oh, okay, cool. I don't
Hmm.
care.
Yeah,
Next
exactly. Or
combo.
the people that you see every single week are not that exciting, are
Yeah.
not that exciting to you anymore.
A
It's
100%.
Yeah. I guess that's with those I feel like a lot of yeah, that's what those places have in common, I
Well,
guess.
there's also like everyone always says, like the grass is always greener on the other side. So a lot of those people that I met there were like, yeah, like I want to move to New York. A lot of New York people are want to move to LA. So it's just like, you know. But I mean, I don't know. I just like the look of things. The, I like that it's smaller in a sense of like,
Did you like LA or
for
Seattle
example,
more?
in terms of like scenic, definitely Seattle. I mean, the truth is, I wasn't able to tackle as much as I had hoped,
What to
just
do
because
in
I had to
LA?
work every day.
Hmm.
And then the truth is now, I mean, as a single person, a lot of and having a lot of single friends, a lot of the exiting, even just exiting where we're staying at and sleeping is a large focus of that is on like, all right, let's try and find someone. Like, let's find a woman. Like, let's try and find love. So it's like a
Right.
lot of just a lot in general. So anytime, so I was expecting to do a lot of sightseeing, a lot of this and that, and we ended up doing like a lot of like, oh, partying. Oh, you have a
Socializing.
lead for girls? Like,
Right.
let's go socialize there. Yeah. So I mean, and I'm not against that. I was happy to do that. I think I enjoyed that part of it a lot. Um,
But your
well,
trip takes a different
meanwhile, I
focus.
know. Yeah, I mean, the truth is that nowadays it's just so the focal point. I mean, it's just hard. I guess it's just hard being single now. And everyone's obviously, I'm turning 28 next week,
That's
and
crazy.
I don't feel too old, but I do feel like I would like to like have a woman in my life, and it's like I'm aware that I'm not going to be able to get that by just sitting inside indoors like on the couch all day, and like you have to like go out and like socialize and like
Yeah, definitely.
and it's not it's a tough game out there now, and everyone
Dude,
has
it's
always
really tough, dude. I don't envy
everyone's
anyone.
yeah,
It's
dude.
it's doing it, dude.
Everyone sees nowadays with the phones. Everyone sees much better. They always you all or you go on Instagram, you see a guy getting out a Bugatti with a a nice watch on, and it's like then you're gonna settle for this schlub that's just like visiting LA. Like, what do you mean you're visiting? You don't have seven houses around the world. Like, why would
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So like they've seen that, so it's like it's hard. It really like the world has just changed so much, and in the end of the day, I mean, I kind of have an outlook where it's like I just don't like. Obviously, these are all big factors, and it's like exhausting at times. Like I just went to the city for the weekend, and it was just like a lot of our nights were based on like, yeah, let's go find girls, and like it totally flopped, and I spent a bunch of money, and like I didn't get my return, and it's just like
Yeah,
obviously,
but if you did, or when you do, you know that'll be worth all that money.
mm-hmm,
You know, like it's like
100%.
that's the way I look at a lot of these. Like, you kind of look at any quote unquote risk that way, risk reward that way. You're like, okay, like let's
Right.
go hear this band I've never seen before, and like, okay, I'll pay $50. Like you walk home, you're like, okay, wasn't that great?
That
Like,
band
okay,
sucked.
whatever. And then if it was like, but
Yeah.
it could have been the best night of your life and the best band you've ever heard, you know. And then
Well, the
you're like,
way,
oh,
yeah,
so it's worth trying to find that. Like it's like that's part of the
exactly,
game.
exactly. That right there is the real key to life. Realizing that the trying part is where you already won.
Right. Yeah,
That's
definitely.
literally
Because so many
so
people
I
can't even get themselves to try.
yes, exactly. That's where I have like that's something that I have learned that I feel like has stuck with me and that I feel like is almost like the key to success because I realized that there's like three levels. It's the people who don't try at the bottom, the people who fail in the middle, because you're most likely going to fail at something you try for the first time, and then on top of that is the people that succeed.
Right.
So to realize that and to realize that I don't have to get this right, I just have
Right.
to try
Right.
should give so much confidence to just the world in general just to realize like oh like I'm likely going to fail this
Right.
but
Right.
like the step I'm taking from never doing this every day and saying I'm not I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow to like just doing it and then be like damn that blew up within seconds
Right. Right. Or
but
not even within
realizing
seconds,
that
or
like
that it failed, or that it didn't work.
exactly
But
like
like
it did
you
not work
tried, you
so
did it.
fast exactly to realize that like well, now step one's out of the way. Like now I just need now like now I can look back on that and be like, well, why did that fail? Well, what did I
Hmm.
do wrong? Well, where could I fix that? And now you're like next thing you know, you're like already addicted to whatever you were trying because now you're like, wow, like I'm already doing it. Which is
Well,
also
yeah, but
similar to
I
what
think it only happens if it's something that you really enjoy. No one gets addicted to something
yes.
they hate,
Oh,
you know?
100%. You definitely have to like it. I mean, if you don't like it, I don't know why you'd be trying it, but I mean,
Well,
it
because if you don't
also
like it, people try it because it's prestigious, or because they heard that it's something that it's good, important to be good at, or that they're,
sometimes you just need a break out of the cycle also.
yeah, yeah, that too. But plenty of people. I mean, I think a lot of people do things other than just because they enjoy it. I think a lot of people do
Right.
things because they're expected to, or because
Or they're trying to impress someone.
or because they don't, because it's been so long since they've thought about what they would enjoy that they don't even know anymore.
Right.
Like
Mhm.
that I think
Mhm.
also happens to a lot of people, where if you just go ahead and ignore that your soul for long enough, you forget that like you stop hearing it. It
Right.
stops talking to you. And
Yes.
there are people that
That's
like, you
scary.
could tell, yeah, you could tell that, like, when you're talking to them, that they kind of lost, like,
Mhm.
there's nothing that,
Unfortunately,
like,
a lot
you
of
could
old people are like that.
uh
You know.
I think a lot of old people do, but I don't know if it has to do with being old as much as that previous generation not focusing on that.
Mm.
Like, I don't, like, I know plenty of old people
It's a good call.
that do have a ton of life to them, but I just think that they
Right.
were like, we didn't focus on things like
Mm.
dreams and aspirations 60
Right.
years ago, or
Right.
even
Right.
30
Right.
years ago. We just didn't. We didn't care.
It's a good call. Yeah.
You
Because I
know,
feel
it's,
like old people are very like stubborn in the sense of like, oh,
well, that too, dude.
I
That
don't
too.
like it. I don't like it. It's like it had to have been 20 years since you last like tried that food, and you're like, I don't like it.
Yeah, totally. This is actually a really interesting evolutionary. I heard, I think it was Andrew Huberman's podcast, I believe, that
Mm.
where, oh no, it wasn't. I'm lying. It was a book I read. Yes, but the author was on Huberman's podcast, and that's how I found the book. But one of the things he said was, like, the evolutionary purpose for, like when you're a kid, the first like the you really learn the most the first 7 8 years of your life, right? And
Mm.
then after that, you kind of learn how to, so you're learning everything, and then after, like between the age of, let's say, 7 or 8 and 13 or 14, you figure out what is what works best for, like, what things to start, to keep, and what things to throw away, and what things are good and what
Mm.
things are irrelevant, right?
Mhm.
And then at that point, most of the time, evolutionarily, people, you'd have a kid, and you'd have to start preserving the information that you learned, and you're teaching it to your kid now separately, right?
Mm.
So our brains stop learning at that point because we're not focusing on learning, we're focusing on preserving, and we're focusing on passing on to the next generation. So so unless we make a conscious effort to, like, keep our, to keep our minds open and keep our neuroplasticity and our ability to make new connections, unless we actively work on that, by, like, being very particular about it, most of the
Mhm.
time we stop learning new things in our, like, teens, early 20s, right? Like, how many people have you met in high school or from college, where, like, they're exactly the same, like, 5 6 7 years later? Like,
Right.
dude, you're literally exactly the same, like,
Mhm.
and they're probably going to go most of their lives being that same person. They may get some more
Right.
experience with work. They may get some more, like, they may be able to have more confidence in a particular field, but, like, who they
Mhm.
are does not
Doesn't
really
really
change very often.
change. Yeah. Mhm. Well, I think a
So
lot of
just,
people are terrified of change in general.
yeah, well, that too. It's unknown and it's scary, and there's no, and we are comfortable with patterns, and we're comfortable
Yeah.
with
Yeah. I was about to say.
routines, because that's not
Mhm.
dangerous. The part of us that want to, like, preserve ourselves, that's the part that
Right.
likes routine, because that's everything's expected.
Right. It's
That
easy to
so
just. It's easy to be. It's easy to get comfortable.
But yeah, but if you find what if we have to learn how to trust ourselves. We have to show ourselves that we could handle breaking a routine, and that, we're not going to die from taking a new
Right.
route, or changing your job, or, trying a new community, or whatever it is. Like, you're not going to
Yeah.
die. It's not the end of
100%.
the world. You're going to be okay.
Yeah. You'll most likely learn and develop more from it.
Yeah, I find that admitting that I'm scared about something helps me work my way through it. Like, I was terrified to buy my house, and I call my wife. Um, I was on a jog, and I kept on, like, pushing, like, those thoughts out of my head, or trying to push those thoughts out of my head. It's expensive, and it's a ton of money, and, like, I've never had bills like this before, and I'm not a very motivated salesperson. Like, it's hard for, like, I like to spend my time doing things that I like, and so,
Wait, by the
you
way,
know,
I don't know. I don't know what just happened. I'm on Do Not Disturb. I did just get a call,
okay. Are you
and
getting a countdown?
no, but I'm seeing it's counting up again. It's saying 34 seconds.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
That happens if you get a call. It starts
But I don't
new
know
from the
why,
call,
because
but
I'm
I'm
on
still
Do Not
going.
Disturb.
That just means they called you twice. It's not
Okay.
a big deal, dude.
Um,
Um, but yeah, so I was so, like, it was, like, eating at me, right? And I was going for a jog, and then it culminated while I was jogging. Like, I just, like I got, like my whole body just, like, shut down, right? Like I was so stressed out and scared, and just, like, in my head,
hmm
and I kept on ignoring it for so long. And I called Rocco, and I'm like, I'm like, I'm just, I'm just terrified. Like, I'm,
yeah.
I'm so, I'm scared that I'm not gonna be able to do it. I'm scared that, like, I'm not gonna make it. I'm scared that, it's just too much, and I've never done anything this big before. And just, just saying that,
Yeah.
just, like, getting those
Getting it
words
out.
out,
Yeah.
and, like, I felt all of it, like, wash off my
hmm
shoulders. I'm like,
hmm
I'll be home. Like, it'll be okay.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I'm just scared. I've never done this.
Yeah.
Like, and I just admitted it. I just said it. And I just, just by it, part of the ways to manage these emotions is not to push them to the side. It's to work your way through them. It's to actually, like, experience them, and, like, make your way through it.
Yeah. Well, I think also a
Um,
lot of people don't realize how often you ruminate about the same thoughts. Which is why what we were saying before, like I also believe that therapy is super, super helpful for people. And not just people who like need to go somewhere and get advice, but also just people who are just sitting there being like, I have to fix this in my life. I have to fix it. It's just like the same thoughts. It's cycling in your head, just the same thing, the same thing. You don't realize how impactful
Yeah.
it could be to not only get that out of your, like, say it, but also get a response back from a therapist being like, that's a stupid thought. You should probably move on from that. Like
Yeah,
just something.
that's what do you call it? CBT, right? Cognitive behavioral
Yes,
therapy.
yes. So, like, it's just crazy to me how many people, like, I don't know if there's still a stigma to therapy, but I know that a lot of people just don't do
I
it.
really there's a little bit of it, but it's really almost non-existent. It's really like primarily with the like I'd say the 60s and up generation.
Hmm.
Like I don't think like people in their 40s and most people in their 50s are not
Well, I also
like
think people who
stigma.
are insecure will also add a stigma to it. Like if you had
But
some
even
family
so, like
drama,
so
yeah.
many people do it
Hmm.
that like you might like I know a couple of people in my life that like refuse to go to therapy
Hmm.
that need to go to therapy,
Hmm.
and but they're advocates of therapy too, like I think they're just afraid to do it,
Right.
like a lot of times you don't know what you're gonna unpack, and like there's so many things that like you don't like once you start you don't know where it's going to take you,
Right.
and so people would rather spend their whole lives stunted, than than confront these things that they don't know where it's going to go.
Mm.
It's really I understand it. It's really scary.
No,
It's really crazy.
I totally do as well. I mean, I think that especially what you said about kind of being scared, being able to express that you're scared. It's the part of acceptance. You're accepting that there's a problem. You're accepting that there's something that you're struggling with and trying to figure out. And the step after that would be tackling it and fixing it. So I mean,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's yeah. I've had it wasn't many times in my life, but I've had a couple of like breakthrough moments where I was feeling a lot, and like and I talked to a friend about it, and like I spoke to the same friend about it over the course of a couple of days,
hmm.
and like then after a couple of days of like thinking and talking, and it's talking about other things, and then going back to it, and then like it was almost like I really tackled it like going like a homework assignment,
Hmm.
or like I was doing like some like real work, and then I finally got to that place, and like I felt like I solved like a jigsaw puzzle in my subconscious. Like it was so cool. It was
Mm.
such a crazy experience.
Interesting.
Um, yeah, and like and then you really get that feeling that you know yourself a little better now
Right.
than you did before,
Mm.
and that's also so useful because I don't think a lot of people know themselves
Yeah,
or
100%.
know how to get to know themselves.
100%.
Um,
A
you have
good,
to be,
I was gonna
yeah, go
say, a
ahead.
good friend of mine once told me like a really good quote that I really liked. It's basically like the best kind of dialogue is self-dialogue. Like
Yeah,
how you have dialogue with people and this and that. It's like to have that with yourself is like golden. Like that's like all you really need.
and it's the other end of the spectrum, by the way. Do you ever watch this? You ever watch The Sopranos, right?
Yes, I did.
Oh, you did.
A little bit of it, not the whole thing,
So
unfortunately.
there's one scene in one of the later seasons where Tony's on a road trip with Polly. Um, in the whole road trip, Polly's telling his stories. I remember when this, and I remember that, and I remember this. And at some point, Tony, just like, yo, just shut up, dude.
Hmm.
And then he's like, why? And he's like, remember when is the lowest conversation that a human can have. Like
You said
it
remember
just
when?
means that. yeah, like the conversation, like if all you're talking about to someone
It's
is
something that
remember when,
happened already.
yeah, or something
Mm-hmm.
that like yeah, something that happened already,
It's a good
something from the
call.
past, and like that's like there's nothing for like
New.
in your lives,
Yeah.
yeah, for you guys to like share or
Mm-hmm.
consider or think about, like that's the lowest form of conversation. It's like the opposite of self-talk,
Right, right, right. That's a good call. It's a good call. I never realized that. I mean, I don't feel like I do that a lot, but that's definitely
I
something
have a
that
couple of
people.
friends. I have a couple of friends that are like that.
Well, it's fun to
Either college
reminisce a
friends
little
or like
bit.
high school
Right.
friends. Yeah,
It's
but
almost
like
like
your
there's a
whole
time and a
relationship is
place.
yeah, of course. Well, you want that,
Mm-hmm.
you want that. But sometimes if if friendships are like anything, if they're not being nurtured or taken care of,
Right.
then
They'll die.
then they're falling apart,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
And sometimes it gets to the point where it's just all remember when. Remember when we did this? Remember when he went there? Remember when he used to do this? And
Yeah. It's
like,
like,
remember when he
let's
got that?
create some new memories.
Yeah, yeah. Or at least, yeah, or yeah, or talk about what's going on
It's
now.
also
Whatever it
everything
is.
is a team effort, I realize. Like, for you to realize like you lost a relationship with a friend and then be like, "Oh, this is all my fault." Like it's both parties obviously have to put in
Yeah,
work
it takes two.
to make it to make I always say that. I think that the world is meant for two people, you know.
Right.
In any sense, friendship, relationship, everything. Just it's just meant for two people. Though I do think you don't want to be reliant, or I mean, not reliant, or
Yes, I was
dependent
gonna say
on the other person.
you need it. You need it. You have to also be comfortable with yourself.
Yeah, exactly. That's another thing I heard. Like, you don't want to
And
find
the
someone
only
that
way to get
completes
there,
you. You want to find someone that you're compatible with. As in, you
right,
complete yourself, she completes herself, and together you
right,
guys are compatible. A lot of people look for
right.
like
That's a great way to put it.
complete. A lot of people look for, oh, I struggle in this area. Let me marry someone who's more outgoing so that, in that scenario, they could tackle it. But then it's like, and again, it's like, you're going to regret that one day because you're going to be like, I did have it in me. I was just always so scared, so scared, so scared. And then it got to a point where I just married someone and now they're just taking on that whole role. But I really believe that it's super important to, tackle a lot of your insecurities or things that you feel that you're not as good at, and just kind of just really make it a task of yours to accomplish. It kind of also goes with like anxiety and depression and all that stuff. It's just, I think the world has become a place where it's very quick to like medicate, like, oh, the child is struggling, like give him medication, this, that. And it's just like, I feel like being someone that
It
used
stops
to
people
be
from getting
on
to know
it,
themselves.
yeah, I mean, there's so many other routes to take. I mean, there's so many. I mean, just to think that like to just wake up every day and
You think that it's the go-to because it's just easy for everyone. It's easy for parents.
yeah,
It's easy for
exactly.
teachers, and like they don't know. Like,
For
it's too hard to deal with otherwise.
for parents, I think it's similar to like school in a sense of like, oh, my child has a problem, or my child needs to learn, or my child they need something needs to get fixed, right? And then they're like, let me just put it into someone else's control. Like, let me have someone like, I'll just send them to the doctor. They'll prescribe the medicine. Now my child will be happy. I don't have to deal with that anymore.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I think that that's
yeah,
a lot of the adult routes. I think a lot of the child slash young person route now is a combination of everyone's doing it. Everyone's on it now. A lot of the younger
yeah,
generations it's just popular. Um,
yeah.
I also think it's a lazy aspect to it. I mean, to wake up every day and expect that you could just pop a pill and your life's going to be happy and you'll feel good. Listen, I do believe that a lot of these things can be chemical.
Did you find it effective? Was it useful for you?
It's effective in a sense of like, um, I'll say this. I'll say no. I did not find it effective. Did it work in some scenarios? Yes. Was it effective overall? No, I don't think so. I think it's something that
When did it work and when didn't it work?
it worked in a sense of when there was situations where when I used to get nervous about like, for example, there was a time where I was walking by the subway And for me, I was just scared of just speaking to a stranger. So when there was a guy in front of me who was taking his sweet time and I had to get on the subway that was about to close, and I ended up just missing the train because I was too scared to ask this guy to move the hell out of the way. For those situations, like, yes, I was able to tackle that when I was medicated. That being said, you know, to think that you
How
don't
did,
have to, you know, it's
what was the
gonna,
difference? Did it so it shut down that anxiety that
it numbs it. Yeah, it
you
just,
would
well, the truth is, it kind of numbs everything. It keeps you in a middle ground. You're not too happy ever about anything. You're not too sad ever about anything. It's very much a numbing type of state of mind. And I don't know if this, I'm speaking from my own personal experience. And, you know, for me, I decided to stop because I was like, all right, like, perhaps when something bad happens, I should feel sad. And perhaps going through that feeling of sadness and not numbing it away with either those pills or even weed sometimes or drinking, you know, to be like, oh, I'm feeling sad, let me fix this and get happy real quick, like as soon as I can. Like, I shouldn't be feeling like this. Like, I don't think that's the way to live. I think that you have to, you know, when something sad happens, you should feel sad. When something good happens, you should feel happy. But it's like you can't try and control those things. And I basically hit a point where I was like, all right, like, why am I even expecting to just wake up every day feeling so happy? I mean, I'm not, you know, I'm not in the best shape of my life. So it's like, for me, something that I realized was going to help a lot with that was like starting to exercise, being like, okay, for me to feel good every day, I need to wake up, I need to exercise, I need to maybe socialize, I need to do, you know, I need to work, I need to have a job, I need to have a hobby that I'm doing. There's all these things that you need to do to feel happy, instead of thinking, oh, let me just wake up, pop this pill, and then everything's going to be fine. You know, that is
right.
where I was for a good amount of years. I was in that zone where I was like, okay, like, all I have to do is pop these happy pills and like I'm good to go.
By the way,
And like I
what you're
don't.
essentially saying is that responsibility makes you happy. You know, like just
Hmm.
being active in your life makes you happy. Like, or not makes you
Yeah,
happy, but like is the best way to fight it is like to
makes
like
you
take
feel
things.
fulfilled.
You know,
Yes,
yeah.
giving
I
yourself
have
a
a theory.
purpose.
I have a theory that people feel the most depressed and most down when they feel like their life decisions are out of their hands,
You're cutting out a little
right?
bit.
So
You're
like
cutting out a little bit. You have a theory that what?
that people get most depressed or or down when they feel like their life is not in their hands or in their control. Like, none of
Hmm.
the decisions they make are their
Hmm.
own choices or decisions.
Right.
And
Right.
if you can live with like a sense of making your life like with a lot of choices, right? I choose to go to the
Hmm.
gym. I choose to clean my house.
Exactly.
I choose to have a hobby and socialize X amount of times a week.
Hmm.
Like I'm not just on autopilot just based on someone else's schedule, but
Right.
I'm living my own life.
Yeah.
Like that's what gives people like
Exactly. It
that's what
gives
makes
you
people
purpose
meaning. Yeah.
to be able to realize that, you know what, I can literally, something as simple as making myself an omelet and then cleaning the dishes. Like, I was able to, like, that's the thing. People also will go so quickly to be like, I need big change. I need big, big, big. And the truth is, it's like you need to start so small. Like, so, so small. Be like, yeah, today I took a shower. I told myself I was going to shower. I followed through with it. I cleaned myself. I showered. I did it. Check.
I think you could add one extra thing like
A hundred
laundry
percent, a
or
hundred
sweeping
percent.
or whatever.
I'm just saying, in a sense, as in, obviously a shower is a small thing. I'm saying the idea is to tell yourself you're gonna do it, and you
Right.
keep your word. That's the basis of building yourself back up, is keeping promises to yourself. You know, being able to try and stay disciplined, and being
That's a really great.
responsible, because these are
Yeah.
all things that are gonna show you that you have value. You're gonna bring the value to yourself. You're making a dent. Instead of your mom having to clean that dish, you cleaned it yourself, and you're your own person. And a lot of the time, I think people, similar to what I said about parents, they aim so quickly to like, oh, problem, like let me dish this problem off to someone else. I'm not a teacher. What am I going to do with my kids struggling in school? But I don't agree with that at all. I think if your kid is struggling in school, yes, maybe get them a tutor, but you need to still be on the ball, involved, acting like you're on their side,
Yeah,
on their
yeah.
team. To expect to just have a problem and dish your kid off to someone else to fix it, I mean, it's
Dude,
super
there's an
risky.
amazing
You're putting all your eggs in one
there's
basket.
a Shimshon Hirsch, who's a Jewish rabbi
Hmm.
from the from I think from Germany. He's from Germany in the 1800s, the late 1800s. He has a bunch of essays. When he thinks that all the world's problems come from a lack of education,
Hmm.
but he also said that some of the big he goes, school is not supposed to be instead of parenting.
Mm.
It's supposed to be in addition to it. It's supposed to be a
Yes.
supplement.
Okay, I
He's
like
like,
that.
like if he's like, like your job as a parent is always to educate
Hmm.
constantly,
Yes.
and the school's job is to give you support and help back you up in parts where you don't have the time.
Hmm.
But it's never replacing you as chief person responsible for
Right.
education.
Right.
And like, it's such a great way of looking at it
Yes, I
because it's
totally
like,
agree.
because then it's like, I, I really also believe, and this part of also what I'm much more conscious now that I have a, 1.5-year-old that's he picks things up, and he's going to continue picking things up for a
Hmm.
long time. You know, I have to live my life as if I'm a teacher now for
Hmm.
my kid.
Yeah.
Like I have to live like with the responsibility of knowing that the things that I'm doing, the things and the way that I'm taught, the way I
Hmm.
use my time, the way I treat people, the
100%.
way I behave, that all of that is going to be soaked into my kid like a sponge.
Yeah.
And so what am I going to teach him? What's he going
Right.
to learn from me?
Right.
And like, yeah, he goes to school 9 to 3, but like I'm with him weekends, I'm with him mornings, I'm with him nights, and that's all education
Yeah,
time,
and
nonstop.
he's also probably going to be more comfortable than when he's in school, and then, he's going to be more
Yeah,
comfortable with learning from you than he would be in school, probably, just naturally because he already has such a deep connection with you, you know,
yeah,
that it's
yeah,
just things are
yeah,
going to hit
totally.
him more with more
If you look at
power.
if a parent looks at their job like it's a teacher and a parent,
Hmm.
then that's where you really get, like, that's you get the families. And like, actually, I'm so like my parent I'm so lucky to be one of these families. But like, that's where you get the families where you have four, five, six kids, or even 3 kids, and they're not all the exact same people.
Hmm.
And they're all like their own
Personality,
personalities and their
yeah,
own like crazy
different
careers and their
characters,
own
yeah.
like, yeah, different like different lives, everything. And because that just shows that the parents went ahead and like gave each kid individual
Yes.
attention to help them become who they were.
Hmm.
Like, that's awesome.
It is
That's
awesome,
really, really,
honestly. It's
that's
very
one
cool.
that's what the goals are. That's what the dream
Yeah,
is, like,
yeah,
in terms of
yeah.
being a good parent.
100%. It's just like
you
a
know
very cool kick butt type of environment. And
yeah,
it shows
yeah,
confidence,
yeah,
and it shows that you have trust in your kids, and you believe that whatever it is that they do want to tackle, they'll be able to do it. And I'm not going to try and just decide for them what their future is going to be, and they're their
yeah.
own person.
It's crazy. It's tough. It's tough. It's tough.
Yeah,
Because
dude.
it's tough because you have the same instinct. You have probably a stronger even instinct to try to protect them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, your instinct to protect your kid is probably more strong than your instinct to educate the kid,
Mm.
right? And so a lot of times protection, leads to either too much comfort, or the kid not having enough exposure to, like, kids have to learn. Part of the book, The Ancient Generation, he talks about how kids have to learn in a low stake environment how to navigate conflict. So like, if kids are playing in the playground, like, you have to let kids fight with their friends and figure out how to work it out themselves
Mm.
without a parent being there every 30 seconds and breathing on top of them and stopping
Yes,
everything.
right.
Because the skills they'll learn from having to to negotiate with their friends and like to come to a resolution. They learn those skills, and that's going to be important for the rest of their lives. It's going to be important when they're dealing with teachers, when they're dealing with bosses and coworkers, and when you're dealing with a spouse or your kids, and you learn how to like have a conflict and resolve it.
Yeah,
It's so important to
it's
do, dude.
so
It's so
important to
important.
realize that because I think a lot of time, I mean, I can't speak from my own personal experience because I'm still single, but it's important to like realize that you guys are partners and you need to be able to work together to accomplish things. You know, it needs to be, at least from my perspective, I feel like everything should be like a discussion between you and your wife, and decisions. It shouldn't be, the kid comes over to you and says, "Dad, can I do this?" Go ask your mom. You know, it's just I don't know. That's just my own
Yeah, but there are going to be things that you're going to have to like that
decide on
I've
your
noticed
own.
at least. Not like there are things that like I personally don't care about, but I know that Rahel does,
Mm,
right? And so, so if someone will say, "Oh, can I give Shua this to eat?"
right. But
You know,
even
like
that is
I don't
still
care, but
working
check.
together because that's like you know where she would care and you know what you would care about. So even
Yeah.
that
So
is
when you say go
still.
ask your mother, it could be one of those like
Mm,
go ask your mother because I don't care, but I don't
right,
want her
right,
to be
right, right.
unhappy. Like it
Yes.
is, it could be thoughtful.
Mm-hmm.
It could be the nice way to go about it.
Yes.
I Yeah, all this stuff is, up to interpretation. It's up to
Yes.
communication.
Perspective.
It's up to the way that it's perceived.
Mm.
Like the way that, you know, did you watch Inside Out 2 yet?
No, I didn't watch that one yet.
Dude, you have that's like that movie is gonna change.
I
That's one of the game
know.
changers,
You know it's so weird,
dude. You got
dude, that
what?
that your whole life you're told like don't watch TV, don't watch TV, like too much TV, and then all of a sudden they make like all these like genuinely like educational and like connected to current event type of movies, and
Yeah,
everything on Netflix is like, yeah, like I genuinely believe, I mean, Dead Poet Society genuinely like changed my life to some extent.
me
Like
too,
it
dude.
opened up my
Changed my life.
mind.
Changed my
So
life,
it's
dude.
like
Changed my life.
you constantly get told like when you're younger, like TV bad, TV bad. And it's like,
Yeah, but that's because there's a lot of crap out there,
no,
dude.
of
Like
course.
you have to find the diamonds in the rough. Like there's so much
Oh,
like bad
100%,
stuff,
100%.
but then there's like the good stuff.
Well, I just think in
This movie's one of the
general,
good stuff.
yeah, in general, I think that the or at least just in my household, maybe like the response time to like getting pissed that the TV was on to even being like, what are you even watching? Was like very quick. It's like a documentary on like politics, and he just walks in, turns the TV off.
So funny. Yeah, well, that's the generational thing. So
Yeah.
in this movie, there's a scene. They have all these cute little like metaphorical um, references. So this girl was sarcastic, and in her head it causes was a sarcasm. So it's like a
Mm.
canyon, like in between them. And so the characters are calling for help to people on the other side. It's like, help, we need your help. And then it goes through the sarcasm and it goes, oh, we really need your help. And the guys are like, what are those jerks complaining about? Like, so, but like part of that whole thing is like, you know, like a parent could do something or
Yeah.
like, a friend could do something. They're trying to be one way, but like the way it's perceived is
Right.
totally a different way.
Hmm.
And, so it's important to communicate with that about that too.
Oh yeah.
Say, hey, the way you said that wasn't, it didn't speak to me or was, I didn't feel like it
100%.
was coming from the best place. And you can kind of figure it out.
Yeah. I mean, communication's got to be like the top, just in
Communication, education,
general.
dude.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, to expect to just be able to like read people's minds and make assumptions on things is just so risky. Like you
Yeah, and
need
everyone,
to
and
be,
the problem is we're quick to do it. Like
yes.
we're happy to do it.
That's something I really try to work on like a lot. Just being like, all right, like I want all these things to happen, but am I literally communicating it or am I just hoping it will happen from a distance?
Yeah, Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's not easy though because it goes back to the confrontation thing, That I think is
Yeah.
the bigger factor of why communication is difficult because it's a lot of, I am always I
Oh, you think that if there was less fear of confrontation, communication
yes, would be
would be more
easier.
open? Yeah, that
Yeah.
totally makes sense.
Yeah. And also like for me like um I'm not someone that like, a lot of girls like to ghost guys, right? A guy will send a
Mm,
text, they won't respond. Like, I don't like,
yeah.
I hate that. That drives me nuts. I'm very big on like, if I have the balls to say yes to you, I should have the balls to also say no to you because when you ghost someone, you're just leaving them wondering. And it's like, why? Like, let's be progressive as a people. And like, if you're not interested, just let me know.
Yeah, ghost culture
Oh,
is
God, I
an
hate it.
indication of an
Exactly.
like immature culture.
Yes. If you have the balls to say yes to me, you should have the balls to say no to me too.
Yeah,
Let
yeah,
me
yeah,
move on.
yeah. Totally, totally, totally. I think it's a good. You think it's a good place to wrap up over here, dude?
Yeah,
Hour
100%. Dude, I
50?
would love to do this again, honestly. I mean,
Isn't
obviously,
it fun?
we always have good conversations, I think, because, you know, we've just been, we're related.
Dude, I was so concerned. I was so concerned when we spoke, what was it, Thursday night? And then you covered like 10 sick topics like on a phone call. I'm like, I can't believe I'm recording this right now.
I knew that was gonna
It's so
happen
funny.
also.
Yeah, and I was like, oh my God, dude, you're on the phone. I was like, I thought we were going to talk to you for 20 seconds, and now we're on the phone for
Yeah,
40
yeah, we're
minutes,
on
and
the
we're not
phone for
recording it.
40 minutes. None of it was being
Yeah, dude, we'll definitely
recorded.
do this again, of course.
Yeah,
Well,
dude. I also
now
think
you know
that
this isn't, yeah.
I was just gonna say, I also think like back to a little bit what we were saying before about how like you have to obviously put in so much time to be a podcaster and like to get to that point, to get to that level. But I mean, I think a lot of that stuff could be like perspective in a sense because it's like you are a podcaster right now. Like you have Apple. Like you could already almost check that off your list in a sense. Like obviously keep pursuing it, but it's like all that stuff is
Yeah,
like I
yeah.
used to want to go into fashion and yet my mindset should have been the second I made a shirt that had my logo on it, I should have told myself I
You
am a
were in
designer
fashion.
already.
Yeah,
I've done it.
that's it.
I
Yeah.
did it. Like I
Hmm.
it's something that people also need to live more like, like you realize when you know, it's like
Dude, this is gonna be episode 51.
oh yeah? That's a
Started
lot,
in,
dude.
it's November. It's November. I started in July.
Yes. So I mean like it's
And
like
50 episodes,
that
51
stuff's all
episodes.
perspective because it's like some people don't realize that they do have more under their belt than they think they do. Like some people don't are like, oh, well, I work this one job. I'm not talented. It's like, bro, like, have you?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was on The Voice once, but I'm not a singer. I'm like, bro, you were on The Voice. Like, yes, you are a singer. Like, what do you mean you're not a singer? You're fully on The Voice. Like,
Totally, dude. And listen, if the dream right now is
mm-hmm.
to be able is to be able to do something that I love and have it be able to make me
Yes,
enough money, dude.
yes,
To have because then I could because then I like right now I almost feel guilty that
mm-hmm.
I'm spending so much time and effort
Right.
on these other things that
Mm-hmm.
aren't making money, but
Mm-hmm.
they're an investment.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I love it, dude. I love what you're doing. I love you. I love your
Yeah, dude.
the knowledge you put out to the world, and you have great friends that are I've listened to a bunch of these podcasts. And I genuinely have learned from them, and
That's good, dude.
that I think is the probably the goal, right? I mean,
Yeah, listen,
just
it's
casual
just,
conversation that ends up,
thoughtful, fun
yeah,
conversation.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I love it, and I'm proud of you, and I'm happy for you, and I hope to
Thanks,
see
dude.
you again soon, brother.
Dude, we'll do this again,
I'm gonna
man. It's a
come
great
visit,
time.
okay?
Yeah, dude. Let me know when. Just seriously,
Yes.
anytime this month.
Okay, we'll be in touch. Let me know when it's like up on whatever platform.
Yeah, I'll post it tomorrow. I'll post it tomorrow
All
morning,
right,
9 a.m.
we'll be in touch, brother. Send my love
All right,
to
brother.
the
Talk to you
family.
later.
We'll speak soon.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.